Race fans, and welcome back to One Hub Racing Season 20 for round number 5 here for the Chinese Grand Prix in Precision Tier, brought to you by Next Level Racing, Pure Sim Gear, Vespertine, ERT and Sim Grid. I'm your commentator, Pinnaiden, and joined with me in the commentary box, as always, it's Indecisive Mackie.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Pete. It's great to be back once again at this challenging racetrack, especially when the weather's inclement. So let's see what kind of weather we get, but it is absolutely amazing to be back.
Yeah, and after last week's drama and a fantastic display of driving from the Precision Tier drivers in Abu Dhabi for round 4, I hope we get to see some more action. I've been waiting for this all week.
Yeah, it's got the makings of going to be a very classic race, and I can't wait to see what kind of on-track battles you're going to get with these Precision Tiers drivers. Even words are not easy to come by right now. I'm literally just got out the cockpit and ran to the commentary box, which isn't easy to do. But anyway, ready to go, and yeah, I'm excited for this one. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'll give you full credit as well, because after I've done a race, the last thing I want to do is to either do commentating or even do another race or anything. So I give you kudos for that. But this week we're entering the midpoint, well, close to the midpoint of the season, and there seems to be a breakaway in the Constructors' Championship, but the Drivers' Championship is still hotting up, and there's still every possibility for, I would say, at least 6 drivers in contention. At least 6 in contention to be battling out for the championship come round 10.
Yeah, there's certainly less than a race win between first and 6th, or maybe 7th as well. They could still be in it technically if they have a couple of more good results that they've been getting lately. So we'll go over everything in more detail very shortly. But yeah, it's hot enough to be an exciting climax to the Precision Tier Championship in round 10.
Yeah, and we'll come to China, a track that hasn't been, or real Formula One hasn't been able to witness for a multitude of years now, and I'm probably as surprised as you is why it's still involved in the Formula One game. Will it be in F1 2022, or will they finally remove it? I understand a lot of drivers are not a fan of this track. A lot of drivers probably don't practice this track enough because I wouldn't say it's the best track for action, but there are lots of opportunities for overtaking and side-by-side action.
Yes, there's certainly a few places that I can think of, and again, we'll cover them in more detail very quickly. It looks like a dry qualifying session, which is good for these drivers. It could still be a wet start of the race. Let me just try and find out on the TAS system. No, it says 3% chance of rain towards the end of the race, so it looks like it's going to be a very dry race, but there could be a little bit of rain in qualifying depending on how quick it comes in. There's a 12% chance all the way through the session. But yeah, there's some very good overtaking opportunities onto the brakes into turn 1 if you're feeling it very, very risky, but you could do it down a couple of the straights, perhaps, especially the big back straight, which is about 2.5 miles long, isn't it? Something like that. There's a very good opportunity down there.
Yeah, it's one of the longest non-start finish straights there is on the F1 calendar, and that will be where drivers will be making the most of their overtakes, I would say. A lot of drivers would go for the overtakes into that hairpin. However, there is a second dose of DRS down the main straight, down the start-finish straight towards turn 1. Not the longest straight, and a very difficult turn 1 for overtaking. Such a long right-hander that you've got to coast through, essentially, shifting down the gears, starting all the way from 8th, getting all the way down to maybe 3rd or 2nd gear as you enter the apex of turn 2 and through towards 3 and 4, which we will see the drivers tackle in qualifying in this dry session.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting what I can see there. A couple of drivers running Inters in quali. I guess they're serving their engine bans, not engine bans, but their engine change. They can't set a time in quali, but it's interesting to see them on Inters on a bone dry track, which is not going to do anyone any good if they get involved in a spin in front of a driver on a lap.
Yeah, and the drivers that are taking those engine penalties, a new mechanic that One Hub has brought, and all drivers must take at least one engine penalty during the season. They can decide when, as long as they don't push the boundaries of the 200 lap limit that each engine has. So we'll go through the list of drivers that have decided to take a penalty, and not surprising, those drivers are on intermediates. Saves a set of softs and mediums, or mediums should I say, in the race, especially with a two-stop. I would suggest a soft medium is the best strategy around here. Soft tyres are just a quality tyre, they're not really a race tyre, but the medium's definitely the best tyre for the race. We could see drivers go onto the hards if there's an early safety car that could bring drivers from, say, starting on the mediums, wanted to get a pit stop out of the way and take advantage of that safety car. But I expect a lot of drivers to be qualifying on the softs, pitting early, and going on to the mediums during the race.
Yeah, as you say, the soft tyre is not a very good race tyre unless you're using it at the very end when the cars are light, or if you start on it, get it out of the way nice and early. But the medium tyre is definitely my preferred tyre. As I was doing okay with it earlier, but that's earlier. This is right now. I'm just curious to see how they're going to shape up with these quali bans for, say, I mean, Cam's on the wets as well. He's got an engine ban as well, but we'll go through the full list very shortly. But it's a very, very tight championship, as we shall cover very shortly as well. It's exciting, and I don't even know what to say or where to look.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at Luke. He was a flyer, and he didn't invalidate. He might have just had a really poor run through the snail section leading on to that long DRS straight down towards the hairpin, and the first time on the board will be from the McLaren of the only Thomas. He's in the championship fight, and he sets a provisional pole time of a 1:31.2 with Lawrence crossing the line 32.3, and as I mentioned, Lukey backed off his lap and set a 1:44.4. We'll expect him to maybe go for another push lap, or just to get, or use that data to get a feel for the track conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things you can do. I mean, especially when you've got a few people not even contested, you can just afford to, if you make a mistake, just back off and set a time, and then you can just regroup, go again later on in the session. I am on board with the Aston Martin of Christo, and he looks like he's on a very good lap at the moment. He's just going around the hairpin before the final couple of corners. And I wonder where he's going to slot in. Is he going all beans now to try and get pole, or do you think he's just going to set a decent time? We'll find out as he crosses the line and goes P2, 50 thousandths of a second off of provisional pole.
Yeah, and he got my driver of the day vote in Abu Dhabi. A very dominant performance from him to take the victory. Played the strategy to perfection and just had that incredible pace that took him from pole position through to the checkered flag. He didn't stay in first for the entire race, but he managed to get the overtakes done and stay out of trouble throughout the 28 laps of Abu Dhabi.
Yep, that was then. It was a great performance from him, and definitely a well thought out nominee for driver of the day. I wonder if he's going to make it 2 in a row, or maybe some other people can put their way into it from coming from the back perhaps, or just having a great race. We'll see that in due course, but at the moment it looks like a couple of people are struggling to set a representative time, which in usual sessions may give them problems in the race, but for now it's okay. It's the opening gambit of qualifying, so I don't think they'll be too bothered just yet. No,
and while we're into it, we'll have a little look at these engine penalty drivers. You can see there's 4 drivers retired, all of them choosing to do an outlap on the wet weather tyres. I don't think we'll be seeing that throughout the this Grand Prix weekend, essentially. Those are Cam in the Red Bull. You've got Scorpion, championship leader in the Aston Martin, taking his engine penalty. Casper in the Alfa Romeo. ERT Arnaud, who is yet to set a outlap. Maybe he just wants to stay in the pits and start at the very back, unlike he did in Spa for his qualifying ban. And White Fountain is another driver also taking his engine penalty, but he is currently in P6. So if the drivers behind fail to set a time, he could be well in a good position starting on fresh tyres.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting if the drivers behind can't set a proper lap. I'm sure they will do, of course. It's only early yet. There's just under 11 minutes left to go with this session, but it's definitely it's got the makings of a classic race today. I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of strategy wins out in the end. Will there be any safety cars? Will there be any incidents that will keep the stewards up all night with a IV drip of coffee? We'll find out in due course. But for now, you have only Thomas and Chris on the front row.
Yeah, and Sam, even though he's took a second lap out of those tyres, very impressive time, a 31.5. So a dark horse for me, I would say, to try and sneak onto that front row in the Alpha Tauri. His teammate taking the engine penalty. A lot of drivers not choosing the double stack their engine penalties. So Red Bull have gone with Cam K first, and Lawrence will probably take his further down in through the rounds. White Fountain taking his now, and Sam setting lap times here in China, and the same for the Aston Martins. Chris will probably take his maybe next Grand Prix or the week after, along with the other drivers, and his teammate Scorpion, championship leader, has taken his as well. Predictions then. Do you think that we'll get a race winner from a driver? I know it's early days, but a driver taking the engine penalty. I've seen it done already in Prospect with Infamous. Do you think we've got the capabilities of a driver starting towards the back to do that here this race?
I think we've definitely got the capabilities of seeing that, but who that person is, I'm not even going to attempt to predict it just yet. But there's a couple of people down there that I'm sure will give it a really good go, and I can't wait to find out how they get on. But yeah, at the moment it's looking like maybe the red Ferrari there, I suppose, or any other colour Ferrari. What am I on about? Anyway, there could be a Ferrari coming from the back. So let's just see which one.
Yeah, plenty of cars with Ferrari engines. I also forgot to mention that J. Luke is taking his penalty as well. So both Alfa Romeos tactically taking their engine penalties at the same time, meaning that they won't have to do another start from last essentially in the rest of the season. But that's very tactical from those guys, because they want to try and close the gap to Aston Martin, which is a substantial gap in the constructors. I think it's 55 points between the two, and there's still a lot of opportunities to take points, but 55 points is going to be a hell of a haul to catch up, even with 5 or 6 races to go.
Oh, definitely. But of course, you got to have the mentality that if they can get a 55-point swing, so can we in the next half of the season. And of course, remember, this is round 5 of 10, so at around about halfway through quali next week, we are officially 50% of the way through the season. So that's something to look forward to. But for now and today, it's always, all it takes is one small error from a driver in control to change everything, as we saw in real life Formula One several times over the last few seasons. Most notably, probably Sebastian Vettel in his own backyard, when he just couldn't keep the car on the road in changeable conditions, which was unfortunate. Could we see something similar today? Because this track is very unforgiving at the best of times.
I'm just reading the chat. I assume you have it open as well. Casper is making a very good point. Kieran, a driver who's not taking an engine penalty, is out on intermediates, and with a minimum of 5 drivers going to be starting on fresh tyres, he's going to try and sneak his way into the top 10 and get that opportunity to start on fresh tyres as well. So he's not at a disadvantage to the drivers behind him. It's a 46.5. It's not that quick, but it is a time on the board, and he's going to be ahead of 6 drivers. 6 drivers he's going to be ahead of, so he could start no lower than P8.
Yeah, I was on board with him as he came out. I thought he was another driver when I was talking about maybe we'll see a Ferrari from the back. I didn't realise he wasn't doing the engine ban, and then I saw him start a lap, and I started to panic, but we were talking about something more important than that, so I was just watching and seeing what was going on. But that's definitely an interesting look into maybe a potential loophole, but yeah, it's definitely something that some people may or may not be happy about. But I did see the chat, and I definitely saw it happening in real time as well.
Yeah, big brain moment for the Ferrari driver of Kieran. No Corey this week again, letting the Ferrari team down as they sit second in the constructors. They're the ones that are 55 points adrift. It's Alfa Romeo are 61 points adrift of Aston Martin. But I think some consistency in the Alfa Romeo garage is needed for them to start clawing points back on the championship, because Aston Martin are just sailing away with it. They're very consistent, both of them, on the point scoring front and their qualifying pace as well.
Yeah, let's not forget, one of the Aston Martin drivers has not won a race yet this season, and he's still leading the championship. So if he can find a way onto the top step, he's been on the podium 3 out of 4 times, so he's definitely having a very consistent season, as you say. But yeah, that's they're definitely looking like the team to beat very early on in this season, and that is Kieran almost crashing a few times into the pit on those tyres, which, yeah, that's definitely a risky thing to do.
Yeah, no gravel trap though for you to get stuck in. No Hamilton moments here in One Hub this time around. So we will see if drivers can keep it in a straight line entering the pit lane. It's not the hardest pit lane, but you have to pick your braking point for that little sharp left-hander into the pit lane. You got to be wary that running wide has a possibility of you running into the wall, with there being a damaged model, losing a front wing and costing you an extra 5 seconds for a wing change in a pit stop could cost you many positions in the race, especially if drivers are going for an undercut.
Yeah, that's always something to consider as well. The undercut is very powerful. I saw it live in Prospect earlier. The undercut worked a treat, and I think it's because you can push more on fresher tyres, and if you try to stay out longer just to try and maintain the gap, eventually there'll be a point where you've stayed out too long, and then you won't be able to have the advantage. But ow, there's a desk there, indecisive. You should know that by now. You sit here every week. But anyway,
be careful.
Yeah. Anyway, Rich is out on track, so that's interesting.
Sorry, I don't want to butt in, but you literally mentioned the driver that I was going to mention anyway. Yeah, he's the only driver on track at the moment as the rest of the field start to come out. He's going to be on a fly. He's got to watch out for the McLaren and the Aston Martin going through turn 1 and 2. I think the Aston Martin's going to be well aware of this and will find a suitable position to be offline, as the McLaren did, hugging the inside apex. It can affect the driver's vision, but it's not penalisable, if that's a real word, as long as the drivers stay off the racing line while the drivers behind are on a fast lap. So Rich on mediums, only driver looking to set a time on mediums at the moment. Kieran has come out on a set of mediums, so maybe he doesn't want to listen to us and say a start on fresh tyres, but it guarantees him a start on the medium tyres anyway, which is the better race tyre. And you could try the strategy of Infamous from Prospect here, where he did, I believe, 2 sets of mediums and then ran the softs for the final 2 or 3 laps, and he managed to snatch a victory in the end. So that could be a strategy worthy of looking out for Kieran and Rich. Look, Rich then down this long DRS straight into the heaviest braking point of the track, the sharp right-hander hairpin, the penultimate corner of this Shanghai circuit. What will this medium tyre run be? You've got to be very careful through the final corner. Don't want to cut too much of it, and extend it to invalidate your lap time. It's a 33.5, but the delta difference between the tyres is quite significant. So I would say that's a reasonable time from Rich.
Yeah, that's a very good time there. It's definitely going to, I think, definitely guarantee him a top 7 start, because I think Kieran probably will beat that when he gets around there in a bit. He's just gone purple through Sector 1 as well, according to the game, but whether it's true or not, Taz is not telling me anything. But it's about close enough. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of wriggle room in the midfield, especially if you've got the guys that usually qualify at the front, at the back, because of their engine penalties. It's going to be a very mixed-up grid, and that could cause an absolute colossal chaos, or it could be a very memorable race for all the right reasons. Which will we have? Stay here and find out after this qualifying session, which has 15 seconds plus about a minute for people who've just started a lap to finish quali. But at the moment, it's looking good for Thomas and Chris on the front row provisionally.
I'm just looking at the minimap. I don't think Lawrence is going to make the line. He isn't. Lawrence has failed to make the line to start a final quali run. This is Kieran's only lap on these medium tyres. Where will it put him on the grid? It is P6 with a 32.4. He'll start no higher than 6th, but will be crucially on the medium tyres then. Chris then round the final corner for his flying run. Can he snatch pole position from the only Thomas? He can, provisionally, by a 10th.5, but here comes Thomas then through the final corner. Can he take that pole position back? But it looks like it's going to be a front row lockout for these two, and he does. A 30.666, some might say the devil's number in that, but it's a glorious pole position so far for him. A few drivers left to finish. It's going to be Sam in the Alpha Tower. You got Lukey as well to finish his run, and ERT Thomas as well. Those 3 drivers are on flyers and looking to get themselves further up the grid. I think Sam will be happy with a P3 at the moment, but can he get into the 1-minute 30s? We'll soon find out. With one more quarter to go, very squirrely on the exit of the hairpin. You've got to get that traction zone extremely perfect. Runs wide and invalidates. So Sam will start in P3 unless he gets knocked down a few positions from ERT Thomas across the line. He only goes 7th with a 32.6, and Lukey, I believe, was invalidated. So we have our grid then for this Chinese Grand Prix.
Yes, we do. It's exciting, and it was a very good session there, and some good times going in. But as it looked for much of the session, it was going to be a dogfight between the two at the front, and as you saw who came out provisionally, it's now officially only Thomas in pole position. But I will let you do the rest of the results and get my breath back for the quite probably frantic race.
Yeah, you got 28 laps of hopefully excellent racing between only 14 drivers, but I'm sure they'll deliver a fantastic Grand Prix for us to witness. So only Thomas then taking his pole position away from Chris. Chris was looking for back-to-back pole positions in 2 races for the Aston Martin drivers. A 36 for the only Thomas, with Chris lining up on the front row with Sam, Lawrence on the 2nd, Lukey and Kieran on the 3rd. Thomas and Rich are on the 4th. And on the 5th row is White Fountain and J-Luke. Those drivers are the leaders on the fresh tyres, and the drivers taking the engine penalties. You've got Casper, Arnaud, and Scorpion to watch out for as well. They'll be starting outside the top 10. But with the free choice tyres, be aware that they'll be looking to make up some positions in the early stages of this race.
Yep, they certainly will indeed. And as we said earlier, it looks like a very dry race for these drivers, which is probably going to sigh of relief. You could probably hear there from some of the drivers who might not have fancied a wet race around this particular track. But yeah, there's definitely some interesting stories still to be told today.
Yes, and let's hope that the curbs don't start writing some tales for these drivers as well. There's a few curbs that the drivers are going to have to avoid, especially a key one in the middle sector, through the swooping left rights as they head towards the end of the sector 2. I can't remember the corner names. I'll probably come up with them a little bit later on. But some of those inside curbs can be incredibly deadly if you get the momentum and steering wrong and don't and you touch them, there's an opportunity to spin. We don't want drivers to spin. We want to keep all four wheels facing the right way, but sometimes it's not up to them that decides the fate of who will survive.
Yeah, absolutely. If the rear end decides it wants to be the front end for a bit, there's not much you can do about that one. But yeah, it's all set up nicely, and can't wait to see who's gonna pull a tactical masterpiece or who's gonna have an absolute clanger. Strategically, it happens every week. Probably some people think I should have done this or should have done that. Looking back, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who makes a charge from the back today, especially with the. One of the first times this season that engine changes served up as penalties, which is a very, very cool new feature, and I think it's gone down really well with the drivers, so that's great news. So Nick's probably off the hook for that one. But formation lap, there's 3 outside the top 10 on the mediums. Only Scorpion outside the top 10 is on the soft tyres, as you can probably see on your screen, and everyone else is as you were with the qualifying tyre. There you go, which I believe they're getting rid of on the next game, so that's going to be interesting, what you can do.
Yeah, I assume everyone will gun for quali on the softest compound. You'll get you assume there's no point drivers going out to set times on mediums when you get a fresh set of tyres come the grid. But noted as well, White Fountain is on fresh softs and J. Luca on the fresh mediums. They managed to sneak inside the top 10 without even setting the qualifying time, so fortune favours those guys. But I think White Fountain and Scorpion are going to try something a little different to the rest of the drivers that got the choice of fresh tyres.
Yes, I'm fully expecting that they will probably fly for a couple of laps at the start, and then they might maybe stop a lap earlier than they possibly could do, just to see if the undercut is powerful, which, you know, it can be if you execute it in the right way, and Scorpion's on the right tyre to make an absolute amazing charge in the first few laps. He's just got to get past J-Luke, White Fountain, and probably Rich and maybe Thomas if he has a bad start, but definitely Kieran on the mediums could fall back a little bit in the midfield, but that's easier said than done, of course. And as a very much better commentator than myself, he used to say, catching up is one thing, but overtaking is certainly quite another. But we are about ready to go here, so I'll hand over to Pete for the start.
Thank you, and it's an incredible quote, isn't it? It's some say that just because you've caught up to them doesn't mean you can overtake. It's all about how the drivers battle on track, how defensive the driver ahead is going to be, how well they place their car to the drivers trying to overtake. So we're going to wait for the 5 red lights to come on our screens, and we're going to watch the drivers dive towards turn 1. You've got Chris on your left, Thomas on the right, and it's lights out and away we go here in China for round 5. Positioned here, and a storming start from Sam. He's all the way up into P2 as side by side between Chris and Thomas. There's contact, and Chris is round. I see an AlphaTauri of White Fountain going to the grass as well, but it's Sam from Thomas. Luke is up to 3rd with Lawrence in 4th. ERT Thomas has made up 2 positions up to 5th. Casper's had a storming start. He's already up to 6th, with Chris dropping down to 7th. Rich is holding position in 8th. Kieran dropping like a fly. He's all the way down to nearly the back, with Scorpion having a poor start as well. Absolutely dreadful start for Aston Martin, but a fantastic launch from Sam. Must have got those soft tyres up to that premium temperature to get the grip off the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I was half looking to see the words drive-through penalty for jump start come up, but it didn't. So that was a fantastic start. And there's going to be a party in the pit lane very shortly. There's 5 people with damage to their front rings, ranging from minimal to quite major. So I think they all might pit early, especially those on the soft tyres, get it out the way, and perhaps you'll have an advantage later in the race. Maybe you won't, but because your tyres might be dead if you decide not to stop for a third time, which could be beneficial, but we'll cover that as the race goes. But there is Chris with a broken wing. Scorpion has it. Kieran has it. Yeah, Chris has 2 there. And White Fountain also has some damage. So that's a lot of chaos happening in the opening few meters.
Yeah, and we mentioned turn one, not really the best opportunity to overtake, as proven side by side can be difficult. There was minor contact between Thomas, and it was enough to send Chris into a spin. What do the Aston Martin drivers decide to do? Scorpion stayed out. Chris is in the box. The Aston Martin Scorpions favouring to stay out. He's only got 13% on that left end plate. It's not too bad, especially in the early stages. He's got the tyre advantage to try and stay with the pack, but he's lost so much time as we've got a spinner of ERT Thomas round, losing it through turn 4 and up towards turns 5 and 6. He's now dropped behind Scorpion, who is going to be struggling for the rest of this lap, having to let his teammate box first. They could have double stacked, but not really worth the risk, knowing that Chris has to make a wing change.
Yeah, it's probably better to do it that way, because you don't want to be double stacked and have to witness your teammate need a new front wing through no fault of his own. It's just sometimes incidents happen, and you can't control them. But just remember, of course, talking of incidents, we may announce a win on stream, but that could always change with the steward's report on incidents we don't always see. Talking of which, Cam got reinstated to P4 after last week's shenanigans at the end, so he'd be very more than happy with that resolution. But sometimes that happens, and yeah, so that's what stewards get right, is fixing things that need to be fixed. So Cam gets his P4 back, and I think everyone else was as it was as we crossed the line last week.
Yes, Lukey now making his first pit stop of the race. A strategic call there from the Williams driver. He's going to box, maybe go for some clear air. He was battling with Lawrence for that P3 position, but you got to watch out for the flying Alfa Romeos of Casper and J. Luke behind. They're already up to 4th and 5th on those medium tyres, but they're going to go long. We'll be looking at least 10 laps on those medium tyres, failing a safety car, of course, but maybe a safety car will add to the miseries as White Fountain and Arnaud go side by side through this section of corners. I mentioned there can be a little bit tricky trying to avoid those curbs. A little bit of contact between the two. Arnaud not leaving enough space that White Fountain felt he deserved on the inside of that apex, but Arnaud holds on to the position of P6. White Fountain is in 7th, but he is on those soft tyres, so expect an early pit stop from him in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, and in all that, White Fountain did get a little bit of damage to his left front wing, so it's gone from 8 to 13, so it's a little bit more serious now this time around, and Cam has the DRS and will probably overtake into the braking zone on those medium tyres. He may have a little bit of a better stopping distance. It's going to be close, but I think Cam has got this move just about done. Yes, he has, so that's a great move under the brakes, and that is an example of late braking going quite well, as White Fountain decides he's had enough of this and pits for a new front wing and change of strategy, perhaps.
Yeah, only Thomas going for the undercut on Sam then. I wasn't watching to see whether he got the overtake with the benefit of DRS that got activated last lap. However, there was a double overtake for J-Luke and Casper, both of them getting by Lawrence on that back straight. J-Luke with an extremely late braking move up the inside. Lawrence just leaving the door open after Casper got through way before the braking zone. But J-Luke seems to have made a mistake and has lost 2 positions. He's lost a lot of time as well. He was right behind his teammate who's in P2, but he's lost positions to Arnaud and Cam K. He's down to 5th.
Yeah, I was just checking for damage, but there's just a driver error there. There's no damage at all, so that explains why he's tumbled down the order there. But yeah, it started off quite nicely. You have Sam controlling the race from the start, and he had a monster start. I still can't believe he hasn't jumped the start there. That's a great start for him, and he's using those soft tyres exactly how we talked about before they went racing here. But Cam is looking at the rear ring of Arnold, but I don't think there's going to be enough space to try what he just did the lap before. It's going to be close, but no, not quite on this occasion. Cam will have to settle for being in P4, which is quite symmetrical to his race last week. But Sam is now in from those softs. He's had enough of them and just wants to pit before they fall off too much and switch to the mediums, which is probably the right call to make on lap 5 here in China.
Yeah, we've got to see where the only Thomas is going to come out then. In comparison, has he got a nice tidy outlap on those fresh medium tyres compared to Sam? They're going to be incredibly close, side by side into turn 1. Sam has the inside, but Thomas goes swooping around the outside. He has the momentum down that straight, has the grip, having got those tyres up to optimal temperature, having done the lap, and has got that undercut to perfection. All he's got to do now is try and bridge that gap over 1 second so that Sam doesn't come back at him in the second half of the lap.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very key, of course. And I always get a little bit nervous when I see a driver coming out of the pit lane here. It's just one of the most horrendous pit exits. I think they could have designed it. It's just, it feeds back into the racing line, which if you're not careful, you don't mean to, but you're going to hamper someone, and there could be an almighty accident through there. Luckily, there wasn't, but that could always happen if someone's just not quite on his game. But Sam is definitely going to be looking to overtake at his first opportunity, as he will get very much into the braking zone. See if he can copy what Cam did. Is he going to be passed on? And speaking of which, no, he's not. So back to that battle between Sam and Thomas, and I think it's going to be a change of position there. Sam looks like he's going to get Thomas. Which way will he go, left or right? He's gone right, down to cover the inside of what will be the corner, and that is a good overtake there. Will Thomas get back to him? No, he won't. He'll stay out of it. Oh, I need to breathe.
Yes, and I think Thomas might need a little breath, catch his breath as well. He had a little loss of back end out of that hairpin, trying to get the better exit as Sam went for the tighter apex on the inside. Thomas doesn't manage to get the position back into turn 1. Not the most effective DRS zone on this track, but what Thomas can now do is just stay within that DRS, know that use the driver ahead to pull him along. He can harvest some ERS while sitting behind and go for the move that Sam essentially put on him into the hairpin. Yellow flag, sector 1. That's a Ferrari of Kieran, stranded on the exit of turn 1, and not a great day out so far for the Ferrari driver, who at this stage in the championship is sitting on a decent record. For every race that he has started, he has won. So we were expecting great things from Kieran. Unless the safety car comes out, he may finish in last place.
Yeah, that's definitely the stat that seems to be catching on across quite a few of the tiers. Might not necessarily race every week, but when you do, you win. He's not the only driver to have done that, but at the moment, he's down in P14. Remember, it's points for the top 12 here in one-up racing, but he could always still salvage this with fastest lap outside the top 10, which of course we have here, as well as inside the top 10, like regular rules. So this is every point and every position always matters here in one-up racing, and this is the precision tier, lap 7.
Yeah, and Arnaud's made a mistake. He probably crumbled under the pressure of Cam K behind. Speaking of side-by-side, though, into turn 1 and 2. Sam and Thomas. Thomas got a decent exit out of the final corner. Sam has the inside for turn 1 and 2, but that will switch to the outside and the inside for Thomas, who will get the better exit. I think Thomas is going to have the position, but they're going to have to watch out for Rich up ahead. He has yet to make a pit stop and seems to be struggling on these medium tyres, as these drivers have already made a pit stop and catching up to the back of him.
Yes, I think it's just, I think the heavier fuel load has probably just nullified the slight advantage he would have had being on fresh mediums at the start of the race, but Arnold uncharacteristically gets a 3-second penalty shortly after stopping, so that's something to watch out for. Perhaps he just got caught out by the exit speed perhaps, but this is a great battle between Rich and Thomas and Sam, of course. Now it's become a 3-car train, but I think Rich is shortly going to find himself where Sam is, and Sam could potentially be where Rich is, or of course it could be Thomas being in front, and maybe he doesn't lose any positions at all. I'm sure he will, but this is the beauty of this DRS straight. Rich is definitely a sitting duck here. Will he lose 2 positions though? Perhaps he will. Sam looks like he's going for a later move. He's getting as much drag as possible. Will he get 2? He's just gone for the 1 position. That's quite smart. He knows he's through, and he'll get another opportunity to fight Thomas a little bit later on.
Yeah, this race pace from Sam is incredible. He failed to break the two drivers on the front row of the grid, but this race pace is superb. Will he try and go for the outside that Thomas tried into turn one? Is going to have to leave a lot of space on the inside because the car with the downforce is going to start drifting wide. Very clean racing between these two. Now Sam has the inside into turn three, and who will get the better exit out of that corner? It looks like it's going to be Sam, but they're still side by side. I don't think either of these drivers want to give way. They're still side by side into the braking zone of turn 6. Inside, covered off by Thomas. I think Sam's gone for the better exit. Will they try and go side by side through this tricky section of 7 through to 9? I think that it's best for Sam to stay back. I can feel this battle is going to go through the entire Grand Prix.
Yes, it's definitely got the feeling of what we missed a couple of rounds ago, where they were fighting seemingly for position every single lap, or the opener, in fact, of course, maybe the pre-season race with Lukey as well. He was defended into turn one like an absolute tank. So it was great to see that the great racing still goes throughout the field here every round, and it's important to know that just because you may lose a position, you could always get it back, as we might see here. Sam just about in the DRS range. Of course, you have a second to the car in front past the activation point to utilise it, but it's not going to be quite close enough for him to make the move on this occasion. Will he try again into turn one, or do you think he'll try and recharge and go down the straight you've just seen the next time around?
I think he should realise that he hasn't got enough. He's got enough pace to get by Thomas, but he hasn't got enough pace to break that 1 second window by the time they get to the DRS detection point. And I think Sam should just sit back and harvest a bit more ERS. Both of them quite low. Thomas with a little bit more in the tank for the McLaren driver in terms of ERS, but he's going to need it if he's going to defend. Yellow flag sector 1, another cropper at turn 1. It's an Aston Martin of Chris. He was on the back of Lawrence, I could see earlier this lap, and he's gone a cropper again. Maybe went for another move through turn 1 and has cost him another couple of positions. Not a great day out for the Aston Martin boys as it stands.
No, not at all. And of course, if you add to that, if you really want to pile it on for them, the guy in third place of the championship behind the two Aston Martins is leading this race, and as things stand, he will be leading the championship after this race. So that's not a good few moments for either of the Aston Martins down in 10th and 11th, but there's still plenty of time for them to figure something out and come back through the field to try and keep 1 and 2 in the Drivers' Championship and add to their advantage in the Constructors, of course.
Yeah, they've been very consistent. I think the consistency dropped a little bit for Scorpion and Abu Dhabi. It didn't keep that 100% podium scoring record. I think it would have been fantastic to see a driver manage to get on the podium every Grand Prix. Only finished P5 in Abu Dhabi, but as it was enough points to keep him at the front of the championship with his teammate getting the victory. A very crucial 20 points that was for Chris to try and get him back into the fight after a poor result. Oh, it's very loose from Sam as he tries to get the better exit out of turn 4, and that could be the make or break point of this battle as he's just slipped out of that 1 second window.
Yes, he has, and as you were seeing that moment, I was seeing Kieran have a moment of his own coming in from the penultimate corner. He just got a little bit sideways trying to overtake Arnott into the braking zone after the massive DRS straight, but he couldn't manage to stay ahead, so Arnott is still 12 and Kieran just couldn't make it through in 13th, and if they carry on like that, they're going to be under pressure from Thomas. It's a bit of a Mercedes sandwich there with Kieran as the meat in a Mercedes sandwich. That can't feel comfortable.
No, and I was expecting at the start of the championship Mercedes to be a threat for both titles. So far, neither driver seem to find that form and consistency yet here this season. Arnold so far will be taking home a point, and Thomas none unless he gets fastest lap for the driver outside the top 10, as Lukey gets by Rich for P6. And Lukey having a great race. He is making the undercut work well for him. And next up on the course for him will be Sam. But Sam has done a stellar job to sneak his way back into that 1 second window, and this battle will continue to flow for these two, hopefully all the way to the checkered flag. But it's now going to be down to these two, which driver is going to blink first for that second pit stop onto that second set of mediums.
Well, that could definitely decide this race. Who does blink first? Who's going to be braver and goes a little longer? Could it be brave? Could it be more foolish to do so? But as you say, Sam is doing a very good job there. But I'm just checking the fuels. I think some of these drivers could really use a virtual safety car, at least, maybe a full safety car, just to help out with their fuel usage a little bit. Some drivers could well be in trouble if this pace continues, but for the moment they're doing okay.
Yes, and that's what drivers go into these Grand Prix. They probably do some practice to see what's the minimum amount of fuel you can run, and then they'll probably take a little bit more out and just pray for that safety car to come out so they can save that little bit extra fuel and still be lighter than the rest of the drivers around them, so they have a lighter car towards the end of the Grand Prix. Both Aston Martins are scrapping it out for P10, and Sam getting ever so closer to the back of Thomas again for P4, net race lead as well. And they're doing very well, these two. They're not really losing any time to the front three drivers who are yet to pit, but it's a race of his own for Casper out front, the gap of 4 seconds to Cam, and J-Luke a further 4 seconds back in your top three.
Yes, and I don't think their first stop is too far away at all. I think the limit's probably about 13 before you start to really lose performance. So I think maybe next time around they might try an early stop onto another set of mediums to try and manage them a little bit better so they can perhaps stop one lap later for the softs at the end of the race. But for now, they're doing a good job, and let's just see which is the best thing to do. But Casper is firmly in control of this race, as we're just a little short of the halfway point of this race here in the position tier of One Hub Racing.
Yes, and as you mentioned, coming up to pit stop window for Casper and Cam K. Tyres, though, out of the three of them, Casper's doing very well. He's managing his fronts. Highest is only 41%, where Cam K behind his fronts are skyrocketing. His front left burning over to the 50% mark now, and J-Luke's not faring too badly either. Both his tyres in the 40s as well. So maybe they're just praying for that safety car. I don't think we'll get one. These drivers are incredibly clean. But here's an opportunity now for Sam again with the DRS. Will he get it done? Thomas holding that inside line and then coming back over to try and take the racing line. Late brakes for Sam. He's very confident on the brakes is Sam. Can he get the switch back? The better exit on the only Thomas. He's going to go defensive, is Thomas, into the final corner. But Sam now is going to get a nice run out of the final corner. Can he take an opportunity as J-Luke is the first to pounce for the pit stops of the Alfa Romeo boys?
Yep, what we were just talking about was who's going to blink first, and I think you always, at this situation, you always think I'm going to do the opposite of my rivals, and in this case I think Casper and Cam may respond and box this lap, which could be very interesting to see where they come out. Will they have done enough to stay ahead of J-Luke, who's now out on the softs, surprisingly enough, actually going to go medium, soft, medium. That's quite a surprise, but if it works, we'll be praising him after this race, of course, but for now, it might not have been the best chance, but he's going to be quicker than those around him, so it could well be a very good strategical call, but we'll see in due course. Will Casper and Cam pit? We'll find out shortly as they're approaching the big straight. Casper's actually on it already, such as his lead, and yeah, one of these two will probably just pit, the other one may not. It depends on how he feels his tyres are coping. I would expect Cam to pit first out of those two, with his front left being in the state that it is, but been wrong before. Let's see what happens.
Yes, and they're going to see where J-Luke is on track. He is in some traffic. He was behind White Fountain, Lawrence and Rich. He's managed to get through two of them, but it's probably cost him quite a lot of time. Cam K, as you mentioned, into the pits. He's got to try and find 4 seconds, and the undercut is an opportunity to take, especially with a gap that big. So J-Luke then getting through those 3 cars in 1 lap might cost him a little bit of time. Cam Cake choosing the soft tyres. This is a very good call. Yet a flag. That's a Mercedes losing it out of the Snell section. And will that bring out a caution? This would help Casper tremendously. humongously, should I say. But the yellow is cleared, and Thomas is back going in a straight line at the back. J. Luke, however, has managed to close the gap down to Cam K with that undercut. It was around 4 or 5 seconds. It's now only 2.5. But this is a good call, I think, from these two drivers. They're getting the soft tyre out the way early, and they're going to have a huge amount of pace compared to Casper. They've got a gap to bring down, a huge gap to bring down, but this is a good opportunity for them to try and close it down. And they'll pit again earlier than Casper as well, so they'll get a double undercut for them, and it could pay dividends to both of them to try and take victory away from Casper. However, they've got a long way to catch up to Sam and Thomas, who've swapped positions yet again.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Sam and Thomas keep switching positions like that, that's going to definitely help if they can clear Lukey, of course, which I think Cam's just doing now. As I say that, yes, he is. He's through with the aid of DRS, but nice and early on the straight will make him feel a little bit better about his chances. And Casper now pits on lap 14, and let's see where he comes out. Has he done enough to stay ahead? Will he be having the one to go on the attack? Let's find out very shortly.
Opting for the soft tyres as well, so wants to be as fast as possible. Where will Cam come out? Where will Casper come out in respect to Cam? He's going to come out just ahead, but what's the gap going to be? It's going to be below a second, and with the tyres up to temperature for Cam K, is going to be a real threat to Casper now for that now final spot on the podium. But you've got to realise there's 6.5 seconds between these guys and the guys ahead who made that early pit stop from the softs, and Sam has got some good pace. He's managed to break that 1 second window from Thomas. Maybe the dirty air is starting to kick in for Thomas behind. He's lost another tenth just through 7 to 9, and this could be Sam's opportunity to try and break away, but an excellent exit from Thomas is slowly starting to creep him back. But the detection point is as they enter this snail section onto the long DRS straight. Will Thomas get it? We'll only find out if he opens that rear wing down towards the penultimate corner. I don't think he's going to get it, and that's going to be the first time that neither of these drivers has got DRS. He's got slipstream, and that's probably what's dragging him back into that 1 second window.
Yeah, it was very close there, but I think he's just a little outside the 1 second. But the thing that I dread the most about this tier is about to happen. J. Luke is going to go on the attack, and Lukey is defending from J. Luke, and that's going to get very, very complicated very quickly. They always have a way to find themselves on track together, and here they are again. So thanks, admin. That's very kind of you. This is going to be difficult, but Cam is flying out there, sets the fastest lap of the race as Thomas pits in P6 and see where he comes out. But yeah, very much progress there. But Casper is in a good position, having been able to weather the early storm of Cam. But Cam will probably come back very shortly around this lap. He's only going to be a matter of time before there's even more battles. And J. Luke is within 2/10 of Lukey.
Yes, he's just trying to optimise that exit. I'm on board with him now, and he's just got so much more pace on those fresher, softer tyres. Can he sneak it up the inside into turn 8? Oh, that would have been a audacious move from the Alfa Romeo driver. Just set yourself up. You are losing a lot of time because that gap now between him and Cam K is 5.5 seconds. It was only 2.5, so that gap's doubled since Cam K managed to get by Lukey so much earlier, and J. Luke not taking advantage of these soft tyres. He's probably going to get it done now with such a grippier exit onto the main straight. He's going to get this done and dusted easily with the benefit of DRS. I wouldn't use any ERS. It's not worthwhile if you're going to get the position that easily. And into the braking zone of the hairpin. Job done for J. Luke, up to 4th then, as Sam now covering the undercut from the only Thomas. He came out in some clear air, did Thomas. He's heading towards the hairpin now. Up to Sam now, whether he will get hold on to the position, or will Thomas get the undercut yet again?
Maybe, but Cam's decided to ditch the soft tyres at the earliest possible opportunity. He's pitted for more mediums, and Yeah, you were saying there about don't bother using ERS. That is good ERS management because you might need that in the final few laps to try and gain one position or defend to keep one. It's definitely important to manage your ERS properly, and if you're already through, you probably don't need to use it, but some drivers could possibly learn a few tricks by watching this tier.
Yeah, it's not always about raw pace. Just the fastest driver doesn't always win the race. It's all about managing your tyres, your fuel, your battery, managing gaps between cars ahead to try not to get too washed by the dirty air from the car ahead. But the undercut didn't work for Thomas this time. I think Sam must have had a mega in-lap, and Thomas' outlap must have been a little bit sketchy. We'll have a look at the timings to see if there was a mistake, but they've come out in a little bit of traffic now, but this is going to help Sam more than Thomas because Sam's going to get DRS on Scorpion down towards the hairpin.
Yes, this definitely seems to be this tier's favoured overtaking opportunities down this straight, and of course, why wouldn't it be? But there are a few others on the track you could do an overtake, and Thomas goes for a very late catch up there. I don't think he was ever going for the move, but it looked like it might be on, such as Scorpion's defence. Oh, there we go. Scorpion into the pits, goes straight on, and Thomas up to 5th without having to do an overtake. That must feel good as well.
Yeah, he's gone up 2 positions without having to do an overtake. He's up to 4th because White Fountain taking the opportunity to make his final pit stop as well. A lot of drivers thinking about getting that final pit stop out the way because they know the medium tyres can do the rest of the Grand Prix. J-Luke will probably think about that now because Cam K's got the undercut on Casper. The gap between Cam K and Casper, when Cam K came into the pits, a lot of K's in this, it's going to start getting confusing.
Yep, definitely. And I thought I had problems with J-Luke and Lukey, but yeah, here we go. A lot of K's, a lot of letters, all the same. Lukey, J-Luke, what else can we do to make our lives even more difficult? Yeah,
we've just got to make it roll off the tongue. It maybe sounds a little bit better. But yeah, Cam K was only 1.2 seconds behind Casper when he came into the pits. He was 4 seconds behind Casper before the first pit stop, so he already made 3 seconds on one undercut. He's going to get at least 1 lap's worth of undercut. Do any of the Alfa Romeo drivers flinch? Casper doesn't. I'd expect J-Luke to box because he's on 4-lap-old softs. His tyres, the front tyres are looking very worn in the 40s, and should box, doesn't box, maybe hoping for another safety car, or maybe he thinks he can stretch these tyres to go for another set of softs, but I don't think that's the best call. I think a final set of mediums to the end is always going to be the best strategy here in China.
Yeah, I would have definitely been boxing because I don't know if he caught it. He did have a bit of a moment off of the straight there. He seemed to have liked the rear up just a little bit more than he might have liked, and I thought that would have been the key to certainly box. But I think if he doesn't box this lap, he could well be in danger of getting the puncture with such as the temperatures and the degradation and the elevation changes and the structure of the corners. I think he could well be in a world of trouble, but maybe, of course, he's helping his teammate potentially get back into this championship fight. As it is, it's not out of it, but as it is, it's definitely going to look a lot rosier for Casper in about 20 minutes' time if things stand as they are. But of course, we all know there's a long way here to go in one hub racing. Yeah, the 9 laps could maybe seem like an eternity for some of these drivers, especially if you're leading. If you're leading a Grand Prix and you're in a position where you want to win, you need to win. Well, you don't need to win, but it always feels good to win a Grand Prix, especially if you're in the championship fight. They've got to be very careful because I don't think they're going to have the best opportunity to win based on the fact that Sam and Thomas are playing this game very strategically between the two of them. They've had fresh mediums for a couple of laps now, and they're going to get a good undercut on Casper and J-Luke. Yellow flag set to 3, and that's an Aston Martin of Lawrence has made a mistake. He's ran incredibly off track as Thomas goes up the inside into turn 1
on Sam. He's got incredibly deep under brakes. Sam goes the under and over. He holds the inside line for turn 1 and 2, but now it switches to turn 3, where Thomas has the inside line. It may be try and force Sam a little bit wide. They've gone side by side through this section many times this Grand Prix already, and Sam wants to hold that inside in towards turn 6, but Thomas later on the brakes. Does Sam run into the back of him? They're incredibly close. I could feel the tension in your voice there as they got very close into the braking zone, but I don't think they picked up any damage. Very good braking there from Sam, and a nice move from Thomas into turn 1 to hold position to take the net race lead of this Grand Prix.
Yes, it's a very good move there, and good defensive move, and of course great battles between the two. But yeah, there's definitely some semblance of a pit stop coming off for Kieran down in P12. He's in the last of the points paying positions, but he's done 17 lap old mediums. He will be pitting fairly soon, and it looks like he's got a little bit of damage as well on the front left side of his car, so hopefully that doesn't cost him too much time. But if it starts costing him a little bit more time, the only point he's going to get today is a fastest lap point, and that's not really what he came for.
Yeah, the fastest lap point is usually a bonus point you take away with a good chunk of points, but it could be a consolation point if you're towards the back and outside top 12, as J-Luke now makes that pit stop. He managed to stretch those softs 7 laps, and he's now come out on a fresh set of super softs, a fresh set of soft tyres for J-Luke. He's going to now look to hunt down Arnaud, who needs to make another stop, and Camke, who's on those medium tyres. But these softs aren't going to last that long, and they're only going to be their best for the first 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah, he'll get to the end on them quite easily, but they're not going to be very quick at the end. So if he's going to do any inroads, it's going to have to be, as you say, in those first 3 laps. But Casper will probably, knowing that his teammate took them 7, will probably feel good in what he's about to do, trying to get the gap towards 20 seconds so he doesn't lose too much time in the pits. But I think he may go round one more time and see if he can eke out any more advantage over Thomas and Sam, who tend to be side by side a lot of the time, and they're about to be again. And Lukey gets only the third person to get penalty for track limit between, but Casper decides to box nice and early, stays in control of his own race, and Sam through to P2. Can he do the switch back for Thomas? No, it's a good defence from Sam, knows where to put the car now. They've been at it for 22 laps. I think they know where to go by now, but there's a handful of laps to go, and I still don't know who's going to win, which makes this absolutely fascinating. But Sam takes the lead of this race. Casper will come out, I think, behind Cam. Yes, he does. Will he be Arnold? No, Arnold is in the pit, so J-Luke there in 5th. So it's pretty much as you were, but there's a lot of excitement still to come.
Yes, there is, and that undercut has worked superbly for Cam K. He's now gotten ahead of Casper. However, Casper's going to have much faster tyres for the next 3 or 4 laps. He's within 1 second, so that overtake's going to be fairly easy for Casper. But the gap to the leaders has been dropping significantly. Cam K was about 3 seconds before these guys went side by side into turn 1. It's now getting closer to that 2-second window, and this could be reeling in the best opportunity for Casper to take victory here with a very different strategy. 2 sets of softs and 1 set of mediums. Not a strategy I would have thought would have worked out, but it seems to be playing ball for Casper here in China.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most strange, probably the least likely outcome, actually. He's 2 softs and a medium in whatever order, but it's working out for him now, and he's got the DRS on Cam, so he's got to move into a podium position. But can he keep it? Does he have enough ERS to fight? Will he be able to break out of the DRS window for Cam? Will Cam be there to get on the podium later on? It's all good to find out, but Sam has exactly the same situation to try and win this race from Thomas, and I don't know about you, but I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
Yeah, I'm leaning forward. Like when you get intense into a video game, you start to lean forward, get closer to the screen. I'm doing that right now. I'm holding my controller as if I'm racing with these guys. It's getting that good of a fight and these drivers just know how to put on a show. But it's going to be maybe a 3 or 4 way scrap for the win. But Casper's going to have to get moves on both of them done as quickly as possible, because those tyres are not going to last forever. And that even though the mediums are 5 or 6 lap older, they're going to feel a lot better than those old softs.
Yes, it certainly will. It's going to be kind of like what I like to call the other crossover point. Like, usually it's used when it's wet to dry or dry to wet, but I use that to differentiate between the two compounds. Would you want to be on 8 lap old mediums or 5 lap old softs? I'll choose the mediums in that situation, especially around here. But these guys are far better at racing than I ever can be, so that's why I'm here calling it and not racing them. But looks like Casper is going to get the move done. Oh, hang on a minute. It's a 3-car battle for the lead all of a sudden. That's crept up on everybody. Thomas really slow into the braking point. Sam down the outside, and now it becomes the inside. Can he defend? Casper is into P2. Sam is in P1. Thomas lost 2 positions. He hasn't really done anything wrong there other than being on medium tyres.
Yeah, Sam went incredibly deep under brakes. He's very confident in Sam. He has been all Grand Prix. But Casper then to the outside at turn 1. There's going to be side by side between the two. But that grip on that soft tyres going to help him hold that outside line and carry a little bit more speed than Sam would want him to. But yeah, race lead back in the hands of Casper. And Sam and Thomas have been battling for the net race lead for the entirety of this Grand Prix, and now look like to lose it towards the end. But what's crucial now is these guys have got to stay within that 1 second window, because if Casper pulls away, there's every opportunity that the checker flag will fall for Casper here in China.
Yes, that's definitely something they need to be aware of, but I think in their old battle they probably just might be aware of that, but there's nothing they can really do at this phase of the race. But hopefully Casper's soft tyres start to fall off in the last couple of laps, and that's probably their only opportunity. They can just do what they're doing now, stay in and around that 1 second window. But I don't think Sam has DRS on this occasion, so Tom has got to get P2 back from Sam. But there's still a few laps left to see where they'll finish. Will Cam be able to follow? No, he's got a good view though. If anything goes wrong ahead of him, he's going to be the first to capitalise on it. But nope, they're very close together, but I don't think there's contact, and that is a very good move there. And Tom are now defending P2 with all his life, but Casper drives away to put his own stamp on the end of this race, and he's had a very good one today, and just a few laps to do the job he came to do.
Yeah, and a few drivers low on fuel. Casper, race leader, has got minus 0.09 now on his fuel, and the AlphaTauri of Sam is negative on fuel by 0.25. So a little bit of fuel saving is required from those two, but Sam can do that. Do a little bit of lifting and coasting into some of these corners for him while in the slipstream of Thomas is going to be very beneficial. But that gap's grown. It's 2 seconds now between Casper and Thomas. I had a look at their tyre wear, and Casper is starting to creep up on those percentages to equal the wear percentage on those mediums. So say the mediums are on 8 lap old for the McLaren, 38 and 33. 7 lap old for Sam. Is doing a little bit better on conserving those fronts, 29 and 25, but Casper's fronts now on 26 and 23% respectively are starting to creep up, and they only wear out faster as Sam has made a mistake. He's lost a position. He's lost a lot of time, and he's lost a position to Camke. He's off the podium, is Sam. I'm not sure what's happened there. I was looking at the telemetry. I was on board with Sam, but a little mistake. He's been struggling a little bit out of that Snell section onto the long DRS straight. May have overdone it and lost out not only position to Thomas, but Camke as well.
Yeah, I think that the reason he's struggling is he's got 21% front left wing damage. So I don't think he sees a reason to pick, because he knows that he's going to finish in the top 5 potentially. But it's a lot of points to potentially lose out on if you have a front wing issue. So that could explain why he struggled so much there, and Cam was able to sneak past him with just a handful of laps remaining. 3 laps to go here, and it's not over yet, but it's looking good for Casper at the moment.
It is indeed. And Lukey on a little bit of a recovery drive. He's on the back of one Aston Martin. But he has got a time penalty, so that's not going to drop him down any positions, but it's going to affect him if he gets any overtakes done on the Aston Martins ahead. Nice recovery from both of them. P7 and P8, not the worst results for them, but when you've got an Alfa Romeo leading the way and the second one in P5 securing some strong points for that team, that gap to the top of the Constructors' Championship is going to start to close, and we will be looking at a new championship leader at the end of this Grand Prix. I haven't jinxed it, but there's all that possibility for an Alfa Romeo to be leading this championship after a dominant start to the season by Aston Martin.
Yeah, it has been pretty dominant, as we alluded to earlier. The Aston Martins are well in control, although Scorpion is probably going to feel a little bit more hard done by. He hasn't yet won a race. He's behind his teammate that has, and I think that could come in crucial as well. That extra point that Chris is going to get over Scorpion, that could decide quite a bit. But yeah, the gap is going to be. I'm not entirely certain at the moment. It's going to be definitely an Alfa Romeo on top. But yeah, it's getting good out there, and it's been a great drive for Casper today. But yeah, I saw it in the background. Kieran was making a stop. He's borderline puncture territory on those old mediums he was trucking. So he's put on some softs. He's going to go one lap to try and steal the fastest lap outside the top 10 and get himself a point for today. Not what he wanted, but certainly better than nothing.
He's going to have to be careful, though, because he's going to be getting blue flags. He's right in front of Casper. I don't know whether One Hub are a little bit more stricter on the blue flag rule, whether you have to get out of the way immediately. I know there's ghosting, so that allows drivers that are on the lead lap to get through a little bit safer, but no one wants a ghost car as you're entering an apex. But with those fresh tyres for Kieran, he's going to want to pull away, but Casper is going to have the benefit of DRS of Kieran pulling him along for this final lap. All Kieran has to do now is stay ahead of Casper for an entire lap to not get lapped, and he will finish on the lead lap, and everyone will finish on the lead lap. I think for the first time in a while I've seen. Maybe it's happened before, but it's not something you usually pick up on because the drivers are always racing so close together that you don't really see anyone trailing towards the back, struggling with the circuit given to them for the Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's been certainly a few weeks since I think everyone was on the lead lap, which is always good to see. It always feels good when you're having not a great race, but you're still on the lead lap, so that always opens up potential opportunities to jump a few positions if there's any incidents in the closing stages as people try to get desperate or maybe careless, and maybe they put themselves out of contention and you get another position that way. So that's always important to see, but I think he's doing just about enough as he has plenty more ERS and he's managed to pull away a little bit, so he should do what we said. And there's a yellow flag there. I don't know why. I think, was it Lawrence going a little bit deep?
Yeah.
Not sure what the yellow flag was for, but that was it. And yeah, everyone seems to be circling around again and again, so that's always what you want to see. I don't want to say what I was about to say because you know what happens when we say things. Commentators curse because, boy, I'm going to do something about this, young man. But no, for now, it's Casper just holding on to do what he wants to do. And Kieran has started his final lap now. I believe, there you go. Fastest lap. That's what he wanted to do. And Casper is celebrating his provisional victory. Of course, we say provisional because stewards always have to look at incidents we may not have seen, but I don't think there's been any. Frankly, Cam, one better than last week on the podium. J-Luke, great drive for Alfa Romeo today, first and fourth. Brilliant. Sam, great start, but faded towards the end. P5 and White Fountain. That'll do him a little bit more happy than he was. And yeah, we'll go through the provisional results very shortly when everyone has crossed the line on the lead lap.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait a little bit for Kieran. Might go for another fastest lap just to show off, but he probably used all of his battery on that lap, not only to try and stay ahead of Casper to stay on the lead lap, but to pump in and secure the fastest lap, not only of the Grand Prix, but for the drivers outside the top 10. So then, excellent drive from Casper. From he's gone up 12 positions on the grid, P13 to P1, started on the mediums, went long into the Grand Prix and took a completely different strategy. It caught us off guard as well. We were all expecting a double medium stint at least from everyone on the grid, but they must have been doing some practice in Alfa Romeo and learned that the tyre wear is doable and manageable if you time it right, and it worked to perfection for Casper. He managed to take victory ahead of Thomas, your pole sitter for this Chinese Grand Prix. Cam has snuck his way into the podium with that issue for Sam. I believe there might have been a bit of contact between him and Thomas battling again into turn one. You've put me off there, Colin. I appreciate you with the nice comments in the chat. But yeah, Sam with an incredible battle with Thomas. Fair credit to both of those drivers for putting on a ecstatic show for us in the commentary box. Unlucky for Sam at the end. I think he would have deserved at least a podium out of that Grand Prix after fighting for the win. But Cam K, good recovery drive, used the undercut to perfection as well. Went for that double medium stint and is on the podium celebrating with Thomas and Casper. So the provisional standings then for this Chinese Grand Prix here in Precision Tier. It's Casper who takes the victory and takes the fastest lap inside the top 10. So not only is he taking that 20 points for the win, he's taking the bonus point for the fastest lap. Thomas then, good result for him in the McLaren, taking advantage of the poor form of the Aston Martins. He's probably going to jump up towards the front as well. Cam K might bring himself back into this, but it's still a long way to go. J. Luke up to fourth, managing to get by Sam towards the end of the Grand Prix. Unlucky for Sam with that wing damage, but I think he'll be happy with P5. Kudos to him for keeping it on the track and keeping his head going even with the damage. I know a lot of drivers lose their head as soon as they pick up a little bit of damage, especially if they're fighting for that victory. White Fountain in 6th. Chris and Scorpion are 7th and 8th. Lukey and Arnaud ride out your top 10, with Thomas coming home in 11th. I'm not 100% sure which one was in 12th or 13th, but I know Kieran finished in 14th. We'll get 1 point, but everyone inside the top 12 is guaranteed points anyway. What a Grand Prix. Yeah. I might need to lie down now.
Yeah, me too. It was Rich that finished 12th, so he will get the final regulation point. Lars just missed out there. Unfortunately, he had a 3-stop day. It didn't work out for him, but it's been quite a race for a lot of these guys today. It's been, quite frankly, sensational. And we always say this, but there's been a lot of candidates for driver of the day.
Yes, and do you want me to go first? You let me go first last week. I'm happy to let you choose. So,
I mean, you can go first as well. It seemed to work for you last week.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Casper. A stunning drive from 13th. Made the strategy call work. A little bit it benefited him that there not being any safety cars. That obviously bunches the field up a little bit more and provides a lot more drama, especially on those safety car restarts. So Casper is my nominated driver of the day. And my question for you is now... it's going to be a simple one. Are you happy to be provisionally leading the Drivers' Championship, and do you think you can take it all the way to round 10?
Good question, fair question. I'm interested to see what he thinks of that, and my choice is along a similar line, actually. Starting with someone that started outside the top 10 for their engine penalty, I am going to choose the man that finished 3rd place this week, Cam. And the question that I'm going to ask him is this. You came from outside the top 10, but did you think taking the engine penalty would result in a potential podium today? And you pulled it off, so congrats to you.
Good question, yeah. And hopefully he can use this momentum, Cam. He had a 4th place last week, 3rd place this week. Could he get 2nd place next week or even 1st? There's only one way to find out. You'll have to stay tuned and watch the rest of the season along with us. So then, next week. Is it next week? We don't have a week break. It is next week. The 13th of May, we'll be heading to Catalonia, Spain, Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix for round 6 here in One Hub. That's going to be an interesting Grand Prix. Another track where it's very difficult to overtake. A lot of drivers are going to probably use the undercut to their benefactory, as Camke did, to secure that podium. The question is, I believe I should be there. I will do everything in my power to be there. But will you be there, Mac, to join me once again?
Yes, I will be there. I've got no more scheduled time off in the season, so I'll be there to see every lap and every wheel turn and every instant and every overtake and everything that goes along with that. So yes, I'm looking forward to that one. But before we sign off and I'll let you do that, I would like to one more time thank our magnificent partners and sponsors here at One Hub Racing. We have Next Level Racing, who sponsor the league by providing prizes, and we have Pure Sim Gear, who sponsor the league by providing a pair of their sim racing gloves to the driver with the most combined poles and fastest laps. And we have our partners Vespertine, who support our championship prizes, ERT, who partner the ERT Going Get Stuff Award and the league trophies. And of course, we are now powered by SimGrid. We run our seasons through their community and platform, and it makes it look so much sleeker and easier to access stats that we need here in the commentary box. And of course, one more thanks we should mention is the Taz guy who provides the Taz for us every week, so we can see all the details that we need to, such as tyre wear, damage, and how much they have. And it's always easier to do what we do with all those people. So thank you to all of those, and I will hand back to you for the end of the stream. If you want to do it.
I do, but me pressing the microphone button on my controller says no. I muted myself to let you do your bit. But yeah, thrilling race, and it's been an honour again to share the commentary box with you. These races just keep getting better and better, and I hope it goes all the way to round 10. And I've had a little look through the calendar all the way to that, and there's going to be some cracking races coming up. We've got Brazil, we've got Monza, Canada, and Portugal still to come, with Portugal being the season finale. Hopefully, both championships go all the way to the end. I've been your commentator, Peter. Matt's been Matt. He's been fantastic. And any more final words before we sign off?
Have a great weekend, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you. Yeah, have a great weekend. Stay safe, and be sure to tune in to Pinnacle Tier for their Chinese Grand Prix, with fastest drivers in One Hub take to the track of Shanghai. Thank you all for tuning in, and stay safe, everybody.